In the gym and in the car, with our advice you could go far. We fuck things up and we make mistakes, and talk about our sexy dates. We host events and go to clubs, but most of all we're still in love. It's getting hard for this to rhyme, just as well 'cause it's bed hopping time.
Hello and welcome to the Bed Hoppers podcast. My name's Mr. H.
I'm Mrs. H.
This is episode 181.
Nice.
Thank you for joining us today. We've got a lot of stuff to cover.
Yeah.
A lot of naughty stuff, a lot of fun stuff, a lot of serious stuff. But first, let's talk about some of the stuff that you can do with us. Hey, look at that, like it's advertising or something. I don't know.
I've done some warm-up lunges to get myself in the spirit of telling sexy things.
I think it's the spirit of Christmas. It's a little bit early, dear. Just
a little bit.
Well, maybe Christmas has come early.
You're
we shall
making
see.
me say sexy things today.
I am making you say all of the sexy things.
Yeah.
So first thing I want to talk about is Spicy Island.
Yes.
Right? That's in July, 2nd to the 6th of July, 600 people on an amazing island. You can come with us. Go and get your tickets. It's going to be fucking amazing. The preparations for it have begun.
The preparation H.
Preparation H. For Bed Hopper. So, I mean, you're going to the gym. You've done it twice now.
Oh, God, stop.
Which is two more times than you've done before.
Yeah, thank you.
And
somewhere.
We've ordered some costumey stuff that's starting to happen.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we're on track-ish.
Yes.
And we can't wait. It's going to be really mega exciting. And we've got some other stuff coming up in the meantime to practice all of our social stuff, all of our interactions with people and that kind of thing.
I would say that the preparation H feels good on the whole.
I see what you're doing there. You're quoting that old film. I say old film. Is it Austin Powers, is it, I think?
Yeah, it's a very special film to me.
It is.
And I'll tell you for why.
Is it because you watched it with me?
Yeah.
Like one of the first films that we watched?
It was one of the first films I watched with you.
Do you know why? Because it was one of the first DVDs I ever bought.
Well, there you go, you see. Bit of nostalgia there.
Bit of nostalgia. And it was Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me, I believe, that we watched together. Anyway, moving swiftly onwards and away from the nostalgia. Over the next few days, if we haven't already,
yes,
we are going to be announcing a brand new event with Kate from Wanderlust.
Oh my God. Yes. Another event. Are we allowed to say what month it's in?
It's in August.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is in August.
Yes, it is in August. And it's going to be neon.
It is.
And it's going to be at a different venue to what we've done over the last few times. So hopefully, look out. We might be able to include the links on the show notes. It's going to go up to the minute, I guess, as to whether we're properly fully announcing it. But we'd love you to join us for what we think is going to be an amazing party. So if you're in the UK, come along, join us. Or if you're not in the UK, fly over. It's going to be great. Or sail over or walk, whatever it is that you need to do. Tunnel, I guess, train. Come over and join us because this is going to be absolutely banging.
It is. And it's going to be a weekendy thing again as well.
It's going to be a weekendy thing, or the opportunity for a weekend thing is there. There's hotel-y stuff. There's educational and sexy bits. There's all sorts of cool things happening. So we'd love you to come along. So look out for the show notes to see if the information is there. If not, look out for our Twitter, our
imminent announcements,
Insta, all that kind of stuff. That's going to be coming really soon. And the other thing that we're going to give you a little bit of insight is that we've got a social coming up in October.
Yes.
We're hosting a social in Southampton. So if you're interested, get in touch. We're not officially announcing it, we're not promoting it so that, that tickets are available just yet to everybody. But members of our patrons or patrons,
the venue is booked.
The venue's booked.
The date is there.
Well, so we're saying the members of our patron, right?
Yeah.
They could buy tickets now.
They could.
That's how cool those people are. Yeah. People in our Discord, they can also buy tickets now. But this is going to be like 100 people in Southampton in the UK getting together for a right old party. It's a social, so there's non-play, but we reckon
afterwards.
Until afterwards, until the second you leave the venue, and then, whatever happens, it's not on us then. Probably within like a 20-foot radius of the venue after that.
God.
Less responsibility for me.
Wow.
But there we go. We're letting you know about it so you can start thinking about what you want to do if you want to come along, and get in touch if you want more information. I'm sure we can sneak you some details. If not, look out over the next week or so, because we'll also be announcing that one properly.
We're going to be very busy, aren't we?
And we're going to be
So
very...
we've got something going on in July, something in August, and something in October.
Yeah, these are things, dates, which we've got, and we're doing stuff.
Yeah. What are we going to do in September?
Wake me up when it ends, probably. It's your birthday, so we've got to do something.
It is my birthday. Oh, yeah, it is my birthday. Another year older.
Yes, but another year, probably wiser, fitter, better than ever.
Oh, okay.
Still
These
as
things might
gorgeous.
happen.
These may happen because they happen every day. I'm with you.
Like you said, I've been to the gym twice now. So
there we go.
That's it. I've
you might have been
completed it.
4, maybe 5 times.
Literally completed it.
By September, you may have even been 7 times to the gym.
Maybe stranger things have happened.
They have. Maybe Stranger Things will be out by then as well. I'm looking forward to that.
Ooh.
That'll be good. Maybe it's next year. Who knows? I don't know. Though I did watch the X-Men 97 thing. That was very good. I enjoyed it muchly. Yes. Anyway, enough of such frivolity and nonsense. Let's get on to the main cut, the main thrust, the main jab of this episode.
More frivolity.
More frivolity and spaderific.
Wow.
Yes, so many amazing words that don't even make any sense and have been made up purely on the spot to get you excited about this particular episode.
I'm already excited.
What is this episode about, Mrs. H? Tell us.
It's about our solo dating experiences. We both had solo dates.
We both did. Wait,
We both did.
You mean you went on a
Not
date
I went on a
without
date
me?
Without you.
Why am I only just finding this out now? Of course I knew. So this is going to be a little bit of an exploration around our day of single dates. And I think, it has the potential to be a humble brag.
But also some learning.
Yes, some learning.
Because not everything goes to plan.
It has the potential to get a little bit sexy.
Maybe, if you tell it.
Well, and...
I'll do my best.
And you know what, right?
What?
Just so listeners know,
Yeah.
I finished my story.
Oh my God.
So if you stick around to the end, you might, or just fast forward to it now and hear that bit.
No, don't say
Forget all this stuff. This is rubbish, this bit. Just get straight to my story.
I haven't even read the story.
You've
yet.
not read the story.
You've forbidden me from reading it.
I know.
I'm going to read it live for the first time.
Friends who've read it say that it's good and naughty.
What do you mean other people have read it before me?
Well, there was one person I sent it to because I valued their opinion.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
It was my old 4th grade teacher from back in the day.
Who said your creative writing was rubbish?
Mrs. Snell, thank you for all that input and support from back when I was, however old I was. Yeah, really appreciate that.
I hope you weren't writing stories like this when you were that old.
I hope I wasn't either. That would have been quite bad.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we both had a solo date.
We did.
And once again, sort of fortune sort of smiled at us, I guess, a little bit, but also changed things around a bit.
Serendipity, let's say. Things just fell into place in terms of timings and presented as opportunities.
Yes. And if you're looking for us to have found people other than our glorious friends, Secret Stag and Secret Vixen, wah, wah, wah. This occasion, that is not true. That has not happened. They are involved once again. And you're going to hear their names a lot. So, and if you're fed up of hearing about them, then fuck you. You're not cool.
Just substitute someone else's name in there if you like.
Well, you could, but I think the friendship that we have between us has made that step a lot easier, and we'll reflect on that. But so we were chatting away to them and talking about separate dates, and Mrs. H had mentioned that she'd like to go on a secret date or a date with Secret Vixen.
I floated that
idea.
And to my surprise, she said yes.
Yeah. So we talked about the possibility of like a date weekend. This was like the initial concept. So like they come down and visit us, and on the Friday night, one of us would go out with her.
Yeah.
And on the Saturday night, the other one would go out with her.
Simples.
Sounds perfect. However, through a series of unfortunate or misfortunate events, they were unable to get childcare, were unable to sort it all out for the Friday, and we had just Saturday available.
Just one night.
Just one night. Now, fortuitously, again, I found out that on the Saturday, there was a Transformers 40th anniversary event happening.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I thought it was going to be the movie. Turns out it wasn't, but it was a sort of look back at 40 years of awesome Transformerness.
Sounds so exciting.
Which sounds perfect for me. So I thought that Secret Stag and I could go and do that during the day, go there, and then we could go to an amazing toy shop and look at toys and stuff from the 80s and 90s and all that sort of stuff. Well, you two ladies had a date, right?
Solo date.
A solo date. And then we'd come back, right? And then you'd hang around with Secret Stag and just chill out and, I don't know, do your team whisper stuff and talk about all the thing. And then I'd take Secret Vixen out on a date by myself.
Ultimately, Secret Vixen's going to have a fucking brilliant day.
Well, assuming she likes us. So it does hinge around that key bit of information. But we floated this idea whilst playing Fortnite, as one does throughout the course of the week. And they both seemed to think that it was a banging idea.
I'm not surprised. She was having a fabulous day.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, it was a treat day for Secret Vixen, clearly.
Pretty much.
I mean, well, I assume so.
But they were very, very open to it. And it all seemed to be really, really awesome stuff that we could all do and still value all that friendship stuff that we've always got bubbling away in the background. But at the same time, safely explore more opportunities for solo dates. Now, you already in the past had one solo date.
Yes.
Anyway, with the delightful Secret Vixen.
I did. Yes, I have.
You did. So this is your second solo date with her.
It is.
But my first solo lady date.
Yes, that's right. There we go. So we talked about this a few weeks back. So it's been on the cards for a few weeks, and we didn't really want to talk about it on the show until everything was like really happened, I suppose. One of the things that, let's talk about the build up and the lead up to that. Immediately, knowing that I had a date, I booked somewhere pretty much like the second of coming off the game, and I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is where we're going to go, and I'll talk through my part of the date.
So
when it gets
the
started.
bag bit that you literally organised so much stuff already, and I was like, yeah, I'll sort it.
Well, no, I don't. It wasn't so much that you were like, I'll sort it.
I wasn't like that. No.
I think you didn't know quite what to do, and I think I suggested, why don't you just go for like a bottomless brunch and chill out, and you have some drinks, and you can just hang around, and then you can go back to. And initially, it was going to be like a hotel.
Well, this is the thing. It was supposed to be a little more curated, I suppose, in that there was going to be separate venues and hotels and all this stuff. But
and it was ending up being
really
complicated and expensive and sort of more organisation than we ever thought necessary. So we decided that actually whoever was having the date at the time would be able to have access to our house, and whoever wasn't having the date would
to fuck off out somewhere.
Yeah, has to piss off somewhere out into the real world.
Yeah.
So, as we were getting closer, you still hadn't booked anything. What was going on in your head? What was happening in there?
Well, I mean, underlying, obviously, there is an existing relationship with Secret Vixen and Secret Stag for us both. So I think that took the immediacy of some of the planning out of the way in a sense, because I already know them really well. So that's not to kind of say that I wasn't treating it importantly, because I was, but it's also a shift. It was going from essentially what was like a really close friendship to stepping up a notch and shifting into a slightly different dynamic.
Because you had to, I guess you had to organise what you were doing during the day with Secret Vixen, but also what you do during the evening with Secret Stag. And organisation like that, like actually coming up with those ideas, is not your forte.
Well, I can do it, but I normally need some guidance, maybe.
Like the ideas. Yeah. And well, it didn't end up being you, because I think you pretty much took
I got some suggestions, but I booked all myself. I booked all
you booked it?
I did. I booked all the things myself.
Yes, but who came up with the ideas?
You came up with some help for me.
Okay, all right. I think I pretty much gave you what you
didn't do all of it yourself.
Okay.
I definitely had.
Who suggested the venue for where you're going to eat in the evening?
Well, I would have got to that eventually.
All right. And who suggested where you go for a drink? And who suggested what you do during the day? There we go. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I was just saying it was interesting because I could see you not so much struggle, but it certainly seemed like a bit of a challenge.
I needed some inspiration.
Yeah.
Not for the actual person I was going on a date with,
no,
but for the peripheral sort of. I don't date people apart from you normally, so you know what I mean.
Yeah,
like solo.
I get that, and I think. This does stand back to typically when we're picking places and what we're going to do, it tends to be me that's like, yes, let's do this.
Yeah.
And you're like, yay, thank fuck, I don't have to think of anything. Let's just roll with that. That works for me.
Yes.
So there was definitely an element of that. And then we got to the night before, right?
Yes.
And
yeah,
pets are fine. The pets are fine. Don't worry about them. And if they take each other's heads off, it's okay. So we got to the night before and we were lying in bed. And we tried to go to bed relatively early for like a Friday night, knowing that they were coming down to see us on the Saturday.
Really busy day.
Busy day. And we had a bit of a conversation, right? How are you feeling? Because the questions started coming Like for you, like bedtime, normally you get your hair stroked and you're asleep in like 3 minutes.
I asked you a bunch of questions, yeah.
And what was on your mind?
So I was nervous. I'm really nervous. And I'm trying to work out, would I have been nervous regardless of the person I was dating? And I think the answer is yes, I would have been, because this was completely new for me. As in, going somewhere and with someone without you, alone, completely new territory. So in the back of my mind, I was really wanting to make sure that you were okay with everything. And as much as you had reassured me, yeah, it's going to be fine, I also wanted to be sure that you really, really were fine. And so that made me slightly nervous. I think that I just needed to hear you tell me again that you were okay. And then I was also really nervous because, again, I've only ever really played with women kind of with you, or at least there's been a level of spectatorship, I suppose, even though you don't directly watch because you like watching, you're still there.
Yeah.
And so it's almost not being performative, because I know, again, I don't perform for you in that way and you don't like watching that. But also there wasn't going to be anyone, I wasn't like trying to include you or make sure that I limited my time, with said lady, because I was feeling worried that you were feeling left out, and all that stuff kind of disappeared. So I was nervous. Will the woman in question like me enough to spend 5 hours with me, exclusively me? Because our relationship when you're not around is going to be different, because you're not there. You're not there to add your own special brand of all the things you add. And you do. It's always different when there's the four of us together, and just two of us is quite a different sort of level of playing field.
Okay.
So I was nervous about that. I was nervous about, how do I go from the normal kind of conversational chit chat that I'm used to having anyway to, should we make this more sexy?
Yeah.
And it almost feels like I was going back to basics and having to relearn some of that kind of, what do I do? And obviously I know what to do. I don't mean that. I just mean, how do I get from A to B?
And it's interesting, and we've talked about this before, that I think you've been very used to people escalating for you on your behalf.
Probably.
And people coming to you.
Yeah.
And I think this is a moment for you where you may have to escalate yourself. If you want things to escalate, that is, obviously.
Yeah, of course. And I can escalate. And I have successfully escalated quite a lot in the past with play partners, but non-exclusively alone with a woman. Not for a long time anyway. So that was sitting in the back of my mind as well.
Okay.
But yeah, all those things just made me a little bit, just needed to talk it through with you.
Okay. So we did eventually chat things through at whatever time of the morning. Like all this time you've not thought about it, and I think all of a sudden it seemed to hit you, I think.
I think it just hit me.
You eventually went to sleep.
Yeah.
Which is good. And in the morning they arrived.
Yeah.
And then it was go time. Now, what I will say is there was a lot of organisation around where we all had to be. So we had like a post-it note, like one of those big post-it notes with Mrs. H and Mr. H, and like at this time we need to be here, and at that time we need to be in a cab, and at that time we need to be going this, and then like this stuff.
Cabs going on.
Mr. H and Secret Stag are doing this, Mrs. H and Secret Vixen are doing that, and then we all come back here, and then we've got like precisely 1 hour, and then it's all change and like quick showers, and off we go, and then so it was very. I think the organisation bit we had to sort of write down to make sure that we were on top of everything. And I think, in different circumstances, obviously we wouldn't have had to deal with that, but I think we were just trying to cram a lot in. And I think there was a real bubble of excitement in the air because it was an adventure. And it wasn't just like, I get a solo date, you get a solo date. It was like everything, because we were all doing fun stuff throughout the course of the day. And what I was doing with Secret Vixen was a secret to her. And what you were doing, she knew bits about, and so and then Secret Stag and I were doing our own thing. So they arrived, which is great, and then we pretty much, it's like time to go.
Now, I want to point out that I wouldn't want people to listen to this and think, oh, well, that's a duff experiment because you know them. And, oh, that's just an easy win. And that's not true because, I think it's, again, what's at play here is the fact that we are doing something separately, which we haven't really explored properly before.
Yeah,
and we haven't chosen these people because, they're an easy way into doing this. It's because we genuinely all wanted to do this experience and have these encounters together.
Well, I think
the whole weekend was like curated around having lots of fun as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think there is something around the fact that we trust them implicitly. We know that neither one of us is going to run off and have a relationship with them by ourselves.
No.
And because we'd all drive each other insane eventually, I'm sure, despite, we love them to death, we wouldn't, we don't want to enter into an actual romantic relationship with them all, and sail off into the sunset. We knew that was not going to happen. We knew that they have experiences in the sort of hot wife dynamic. So there is a benefit around that. And, from Secret Stag's ability to kind of be by himself and get the most enjoyment out of his partner going off and doing stuff, to her ability to kind of playing with people and to enjoying dates. That's a great ability. But her experiences in terms of solo dates and getting your head around those emotions as well. So whilst it was easy in terms of the fact that they are friends and we spend a large chunk of time with them, we were putting ourselves in a little bit of an uncomfortable position because we hadn't experienced, certainly you hadn't been on a date before. No. And the last one that I went on was like a matter of circumstance. And so it was like a really good opportunity for everyone to have something that was really awesome from this. And I think whilst we may not have all gotten the precise typical experience that we'd have gotten had we done this with other people, there was enough in there for all of us to really appreciate the experience itself.
Yeah. Now, I also want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Is it true then that you weren't overly keen anyway for me to have a solo date with someone I didn't know already? Or at least have a level of familiarity with? Yeah,
I think part of it for me is around, at this point in time, is I didn't know how I was going to react with you having a solo date. And I think you would probably react the same way if it was someone that we had no real connection with and it was just one of us forming that relationship with somebody else that they hadn't met. I think there would probably be some alarm bells ringing and we'd both be a little bit concerned.
Is that because it feels too far away from what we do together and it feels more like we're actually going our separate ways to do something that isn't ever going to join us up again?
Well, I think it's that fear and risk of the unknown. I think the worry about it being someone that we don't know is that fear of the unknown for one thing. And I think because we don't know that person, it's hard to understand them and understand the relationship. And actually, part of the fear is that we've always had between us is that we develop real emotional connections and end up loving someone and running off with them.
Yeah.
And you've had that fear and we've had that chat enough times. And I think with it being someone completely unknown, I think we put ourselves more at risk at the worry. I'm not necessarily saying that one of us is going to run off with someone, but for example, if I was to go on a date with a woman that you've not met before,
again, it creates,
I can see the reaction on your face.
I know. It creates fear, I think, rather than appeal.
And it creates a very, very separate experience, the person out on the date, which I'm sure is great for that person out on the date. But for the person left at home or the person not doing that thing, it's a lot more concerning, I think.
Yeah, no,
I'm not suggesting that that won't be something that we explore necessarily, but I think I don't think we're in that space.
That's fair.
I think there's a lot to go with. And that's why it was so great to be able to have this opportunity with Secret Stag and Secret Vixen, because we know them, we care for them, we do genuinely love them. But we can also experience them in all the different combinations that we've got and have a nice time without any fear of one of us running off and joining the circus with them or whatever it might be. I don't know why the circus. I mean, I assume that's where all the cool kids go these days. But that was kind of my thought process behind it.
Cool.
So they rock up.
Yep.
And then immediately Secret Stag and I have to jump into a car pretty much and go and see this Transformers experience. So it was quite nice because we had something to do.
Yeah.
So I wasn't going to be just sat at home going, what's she doing? I wonder what she's doing now. How amazing a time is she having? Because I was actually sat in a cinema watching, I thought it was going to be the movie, slightly disappointed, and I do apologise to him. It wasn't the movie. It was actually 4 episodes of the original cartoon with a sort of voice acting cast at the start of it. It was cool. It was really good. I enjoyed it. But it was different to what I'd originally thought I'd booked. However, that was like a good hour and a half or whatever in the cinema, chilling out. And whilst my mind did wander a little bit, I was also like, yay, Transformers on the cinema screen. So there's that. And it was like nice because I got to spend some time with Secret Stag. And, you know, there's some funny moments because the cartoon's dopey as fuck because it's like 40 years old and there's all continuity errors. And I knew that actually after that point, because I knew you were going to go for a bottomless brunch kind of thing.
For a couple of hours.
For a couple of hours. I knew there wasn't really going to be much happening over the course of that. No. And I knew that once we come out of the cinema and then we were on our way to the toy store, which is like miles away, it's like 40 minutes away, that actually the reality is that you probably weren't going to be doing very much until we were in the car and well on our way.
Okay.
So that kind of took my mind off things.
Yeah,
so
sure.
So what happened with you? What did you do?
We got to the venue and it was incredibly easy at this point because it was nothing I hadn't really done before with Secret Vixen, although we didn't have obviously the banter of you two adding to, you know, the conversation. So it was
taken away, I know.
So it was just us two for a couple of hours and we had some lovely drinks, we had some food and we just generally chatted probably for about an hour about normal stuff that we would probably normally talk about anyway, just catching up stuff.
Okay.
And that was really easy. I didn't feel nervous at all at that point. I felt like, oh, this is great. This is easy. I feel at ease. I feel fine. And then I've got to about an hour in and I think I started asking Secret Vixen a few questions, not necessarily about me or the date or what we were going to do or maybe don't going to do.
So not like, hey, how do you feel about going down on a woman?
No, none of that. But I did sort of frame the conversation to maybe just some more playful talk, really. And again, it wasn't necessarily directed at me or what we might be doing, but just maybe put the conversation into a sexier theme. We talked about some past dates experiences she's had and just talked about sex lives and just sex generally, just like a sex themed conversation.
Okay.
We did talk a little bit about the date, and I was quite open with her when I explained. I had felt a little bit nervous, and again, I kind of asked her again. I was like, "Are you sure you want to do this? Please don't think you need to do this because you know me and you're. God, I don't want you to be doing me a favour or something silly like that."
She knows how awful you are in real life. She's fine.
Piss off, Ross. And that was nice because I did feel reassured because we kind of just talked a little bit around, you know, some of her previous experiences and I felt reassured. Okay, so that happened for probably 2 hours.
Okay.
And then I kind of jokingly said, well, we should probably make a move then back to our house because that was the next part of the plan.
Yeah.
And that had always been the plan anyway, and we were all okay with that. And so we grabbed a taxi and we went back to our house.
How did you feel in the cab?
Again, still fine.
Yeah.
Nothing. I think in hindsight, it might have been quite nice to feel like I could be publicly flirty or publicly playful, maybe a little.
Okay. Well, you could have been.
Well, yes, I possibly could have been. But again, was taking it quite slowly, baby steps. And, you know, I think it probably occurred to me after.
You could have fingered in the back of the cab.
Oh, dear.
Could have had a bit of clunge there, do you?
Oh, God, stop. Yeah. So I think, again, that's something that just retrospectively occurred to me afterwards that I thought, well, okay, yeah, if I get braver, and I'm not brave, I just didn't want to stuff it up, you know.
Okay, no, that's fair.
I think that's it. I just wanted everything to be on a level that everyone could cope with without being overly kind of, I don't know how Secret Vixen feels about, publicly kissing women, for example. So
It would have been a good line, though.
I didn't want to assume.
How do you feel about publicly kissing women?
It feels really, really creepy, if I'm honest.
Okay, so you get home and what happened?
Although hilariously, the taxi driver did ask us if we were Swedish. I don't know why.
She's Swedish.
She's really tall. So when we got in the cab, he was like, "Are you Swedish?" She's like, "No." Okay. It did make us both laugh though. Anyway, so do you want me to carry on and tell you what happened back at the ranch?
I mean,
or do you want to talk about at what point you then maybe felt that you were wondering what we were doing?
Yeah, I was quite busy looking around the toy shop, which was, to be fair, absolutely banging. Recommend it to everybody.
Glad to hear that.
And I think we had our sort of first picture from you at that point.
Yeah.
Pretty much our only picture from you at that point. No. And that's a thing that we're going to go into in a minute. But there was much a sort of like, oh, they're home. Okay, that's cool. Yeah. And we were like, I think because we were both like, yay, there's going to be some pictures and yay, we're in a toy shop. And we're like, okay, let's just go for a coffee. And well, I had a coffee. Obviously, he didn't have a coffee. He had like some sort of Coke or something. We're like, let's see what they send us. Okay. And I'm still kind of waiting for those pictures to go through.
More than one picture.
There's two, literally two. So, and I think, there was pictures of you on your date, which was nice. It was good to see you having fun, and that was reassuring. But there really wasn't much in form of communication or anything coming from you at all. Now, I appreciate for the first couple of hours, I was in a cinema, so I didn't expect there to be much.
You were just brunching.
Yeah, but also it is nice to like, oh, you could have been like, oh, I'm having a nice time. Oh, it's fun. It's sexy or whatever. But that I didn't really get that. But we'll come back to that because obviously you were at home.
Yeah.
And
by this point, yeah.
Yeah, you're at home. And what happened?
So we got back home about 3ish, and you were coming back at 5.
Yeah, 5 for that or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was roughly the aim.
Yeah.
We knew we had till 5.
Yeah.
And so we had 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is probably one of the things that wasn't a negative, but it certainly threw me into a little bit of turmoil because I thought, oh my God, shit, we've got 2 hours now. Not that I want to be having sex with someone for necessarily 2 hours, that's not what I mean, but more of a time pressure. And because I had a time pressure then, and I thought, okay, so whatever happens next then has to happen and then has to be finished. And so time was ticking in my head at this point.
What was that like? Because you don't know how to deal with that.
Oh, you, honestly.
Because you've never been on time for anything in your life.
Oh, dear. Okay. I can be on time. Thank you very much.
Okay, all right.
However, being pressured by time does concern me sometimes. And I don't like the way it makes me feel. And for
I know that.
I always seem to be under pressure with time.
Yes, I know.
As you can probably attest.
Yes.
And so there was this 2 hour now window of kind of like we got home and we didn't immediately get home and go, oh my God, let's immediately go upstairs, because you don't, you just come in, you say hello to the pets, you chill out and you sort of like, okay, we're home. Right. So then we sat and just chilled on the settee for, I know, probably half an hour.
Yeah.
And we just kind of, again, just a continuation of a conversation we'd already been having. And then I did sort of say, okay, and what do we do now? Not in a kind of, oh my God, help me, but in a kind of gauging if she was still okay.
Yeah.
And how do you feel about moving things on?
Mm-hmm.
And she was amazing because she then came and sat next to me.
Yeah.
And said, I tell you what, I will help escalate. And then she kissed me.
Ah.
Yeah. And I was, relief literally flooded through me because I was like, thank God I haven't misread anything. I haven't got all my kind of hopes up for nothing. Because she could have turned around and said, you know what, I've had a lovely time, but actually I don't want to do anything more. And that would have been fine because I love her to bits, and that's fine. It's always okay for someone to say no. But at the same time, it was a relief, a palpable relief that she wanted to go further.
All right.
Okay. So then we went upstairs and we mostly undressed. Like, we undressed down to kind of underwear, and we lay on the bed, and we put some music on. I didn't put the TV on because, you know, it always distracts me in the wrong way. So I just put some music on, and we kind of lay on the bed, and we just carried on kissing and kissed for ages. In fact, there was a lot of kissing, which was lovely. And that's kind of, I think, where my head had been going in a, I hope it goes this way kind of thing, because I love kissing women and I love kissing her. So we kissed for ages. And then there was kind of some, you know, just stroking and entwining a bit and just kissing.
Mm-hmm.
And then she asked me if she could go down on me.
Okay. Did she literally ask that?
Yeah.
Okay.
She literally did. She asked by permission if she could go down on me.
Okay.
And I think I actually jokingly went, "Oh my God, you don't have to if you don't want to."
How come I never get this option? You just like grab my head and shove it there.
Piss off, I don't. But again, it was wonderful to hear it, because I've obviously played with Vixen loads of times, but again, it's always been in the presence of you two. And, you know, whilst we have been really intimate in the past, again, it's always been as
so. Do you think this is because you're not sure if she was into that into women because it's specifically her, or is it because it could it have been any woman?
I think I always question if a woman wants to play with you, I don't always assume that every woman will necessarily want to go down on every woman.
But then
in the same
way
I wouldn't necessarily want to go and like give a blowjob to any guy.
No, I wouldn't want to go and give a blowjob to any guy either.
It's a really personal thing, and oral sex is incredibly intimate, as we've said in the past.
No, I get that.
And I'm not going to make assumptions that just because you like kissing and making out with women and fondling their boobs a bit, it doesn't necessarily mean that you want to go down the holiest of holes and start doing that.
The holiest of holes.
Because you may not want to.
No,
I
understand.
Draw the line at just intimacy in terms of fondling, kissing, making out, and you may not want to go further, or you may just think, actually, I'm going to be incredibly selfish and I would like you to go down on me, but I don't want to reciprocate.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that is known. Sometimes that happens. Each was him. And so she asked me if she could. And once I'd got the sort of quip out the way of, "Oh my God, are you sure?" I'm like, "Yes, please." I would love that. And then she went down on me. Now, I want to point out at this stage, okay, because I know that the issue of photos is going to come up when you give your little summary and your little recap, and you're right to bring that up. And we said we would be constructive about this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to put this out there. It is incredibly difficult to break some kind of sexy mood, especially if it's taking you a while to get your head into that sexy mood because you're nervous or whatever, and then go, shit, let me just grab my phone and take a picture.
Well, you kind of have just done this for listeners. You've kind of gone, right, and she's going down on me. And then you're going, well, now I'm going to talk about how I didn't take pictures.
No, I want to point out at this point, I probably should have taken a picture, is what I'm pointing out. It would have been an opportunity to take a picture of this happening.
Yeah.
And I'm really sorry to say it kind of didn't, because I was enjoying what was happening.
Yeah.
And I know that sometimes it's incredibly hard for me to reach orgasm anyway and get my head into the right space and not worry about all the peripheral stuff and not worry about distractions and all that stuff. And because it was working and I was feeling sexy and what she was doing was making me feel like I could achieve orgasm and not, I was like, oh my God, this is actually brilliant and this is going to happen.
Yeah.
And I think had I then gone, shit, I need to get my phone and take a picture, I might have had to reset all that. And actually, truthfully, it didn't occur to me.
Right, that much I gathered.
And I'm going to be completely honest about that. It didn't, because I was enjoying myself and I was enjoying what was happening. And I was so amazingly happy that it was happening and I wasn't struggling in some way that I didn't. And I'm sorry.
And I think there's two things that kind of occur to me as you describe that. One, I mean, it's really nice that you're enjoying it so much that you're able to get there and have a really nice experience. The flip side, I guess, is by not having those things, it does leave me feeling a little bit forgotten. And it's not just the lack of picture, it's the lack of communication as well, I think. And I can understand why so many sort of stags and cucks or whatever get frustrated when their partners go out and do that. Because that is your link back to your partner, because there isn't a physical one there. You're not in the room, you can't see what's going on. So like we got the message that you were in the taxi, and then we heard really nothing, and then there was just like a picture of you two just like grinning away with your faces next to each other. So what I kind of was really disappointed with, not angry, just disappointed, was that, part of my challenge of trying to go through this myself was, how do I connect to what you're doing?
Yeah.
And that's why I said, well, because we discussed this, that like whatever time in the morning we were still having the conversation, I was like, well, I want to have the pictures or something so that I have some sense of what's gone on, and also so that I can actually live the experience that other people go through. Because one of the things that you don't do, and we talked about this previously, is that you don't make your encounters sexy for me.
No,
I know. It's just something you don't seem to be able to get your head around. So actually, I was thinking, well, I don't know how I'm going to react to pictures because I'm not used to you even making your encounters sexy for you, let alone for me. So that's why I was kind of like, it would have been nice to have some pictures so I go, is that hot or not? I don't know at this stage. And that's the thing. It was exciting that you were having a nice time, and I was excited for you. And I was nervous for you because I knew how nervous you were. But I don't feel as though it was a very sexy experience for me. Mm-hmm. Because it wasn't made a sexy experience, because I don't naturally get excited about you doing this stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I'd asked for the pictures, was to see whether that, because you weren't going to do that yourself and talk about it. My hope was that the pictures would give me a sample of that. And that's where I was left really, really disappointed and a little bit frustrated. And I think Secret Stag felt that, I wouldn't want to speak for him, but I imagine that he felt a little bit the same way.
I imagine he did.
Because, one of the stipulations of your experience is that you send us some pictures.
So and neither of us really did.
Neither of you did. That. Now, I'm not suggesting that you have to stop play to do it. And, when we talk a bit about my date, I will sort of talk about how I got around that. But what you could have done is you could have played and you could have taken some pictures afterwards.
Yes, we could have done.
Or you could have taken some pictures beforehand. And I think that there is something about the spirit of it being greater than the truth of what is exactly happening. I'm not expecting a news fucking documentary of like, and now here she is doing this, and that wouldn't have been, that wouldn't have worked. But actually what you could have done is gone, okay, here's a couple of sexy pictures. You could have just set them up and taken some nice ones.
Yeah, I know.
And that would have at least been like, because then you can say, okay, whilst we didn't message you while it was all happening, we did think about you and you were on our minds, and this is, we wanted to send you something because it really meant a lot that you gave us this opportunity, or whatever it might have been.
Yeah.
And I think
I understand that.
That's where my head was at. So anyway, so she went down on you.
Yeah.
Then what happened?
I came. Sorry, hard.
You came hard. You came hard. Okay.
I came.
Yeah.
And I was like proper shaky because it happened, and I was like, oh my God, it's really hot. Yeah. And it was really hot. And then
only you had some pictures to relive the moment.
Only I'd had some pictures. And I deeply regret it. I really do deeply regret that I didn't manage to, and I didn't. And then I went down on her.
Okay.
And again, I asked for consent and asked her if it was something she would like me to do, and she said yes. So I went down on her.
Okay.
How many other ways can I say that?
So you've only said it one way. You went down on her.
I did.
Yeah. Okay.
Which was really, really hot. Because I could hear like her breathing was like changing as she was getting close to orgasm, and that was really exciting, and the whole thing was really hot. And plus, I think what I love about being intimate with women is just how soft everything is. It's just lovely. Mm-hmm. And like, as much as I love men, I do, there's a lot of hair and bristle and stubbiness, and it's a very different experience. So I really enjoyed that. And then she came, and then we had 9 minutes until you got back, because we then both got a message at the same time saying we're 10 minutes away, and we were like, shit. So we lay there in kind of 9 minutes of.
We were like towards 5:30 rather than 5 o'clock. I'm going to point out. So we were later.
5.
It was later than what we'd initially said.
We said to 5:30 because it was 5 hours each. We went out at 12:30 to 5:30.
Went out at 12. Anyways. No.
The date started at 12:30.
Oh, God.
Anyway, we can be pedantic as much as we want.
You and your semantics of the whole, like pedantism of the whole thing. However, that is.
You arrived home at 5:15, and we were still.
You were still naked and on the bed, which was a marvellous treat to come into.
We thought at that point, fuck, we haven't really sent pictures or done, but at least we're here. Hey, we're naked on the bed.
You thought, and I think you said this. You're like, hey, we're naked. Look at us. We're naked. Look at us. Come and give us cuddles.
Yeah. Because we genuinely were both really happy to see you both.
Yeah, it was, and
really were stoked to see you both. We were like, yeah,
you were both a little bit merry because, of course, we hadn't been drinking because which was funny. And then we arrived, and you were all sort of a bit merry, and you'd obviously had a bit of an experience, and you had a bit of a glow about you both. So we sort of jumped on the bed and just like gave you some cuddles and said hello and stuff, and we showed you the robots that we inevitably bought.
And you opened some champagne.
Opened some bubbles. It was very, very wonderful. Yeah. And then we literally had an hour to sort of turn around. We had to turn around the room.
I know.
And like I wanted a shower before we went out, and I wanted to freshen up and look nice for my date. And she wanted to freshen up and look nice for her date. And you were just nice and chilled. you were just like, yeah, I don't care. I'm happy now.
Well, no, it wasn't so much. But I was already like, oh, right now we're into phase 2 of the evening, which there wasn't really much time to think about anything other than, okay, now the next phase.
And well, we had a few minutes to check in, and we had a little bit of a conversation, and they did the same, I think. And it was really nice. And I was really happy that you'd had such a nice time.
Yeah.
I was a bit frustrated about the pictures, but I don't think it ruined the experience. I was just like, oh, all right, typical. There we go. But it was nice to see you and give you a cuddle and give you a kiss. And then obviously then I was off out myself.
And were you excited then that it was now your turn to solo up?
Well, I, as you well know, love like a little secret that I've arranged. I mean, it was a little bit of a weekend of that. I'd arranged some gluten-free donuts as well. They were banging to arrive the day, not for the day, but for when everyone turned up or when they turned up. So that was cool. So I hadn't told her the restaurant until I think that day. Yeah. And then I hadn't told her the activity until we were literally at the restaurant, which was quite cool. So we hopped in a cab, and in fact, we all hopped in a cab together, which was really quite nice because it was quite a nice buzzy bit of excitement. Adventure. We'd all got changed, and then we sort of made our way to to the restaurant where we were going, and you were going to a different restaurant because obviously we talked about, do we eat together, but that felt a bit weird, and that we were sort of
you should go together for your date.
So I went to like a little Greek place, which was nice, and I'd kind of decided on this particular place because you could have a few little bites to eat without having loads, because the main place we were going to, the activity, for want of a better phrase, or not the activity, was like a little baseball pitching place that did cocktails, that did hot dogs and stuff. So I thought we could have a bite to eat at the Greek place, have a cocktail, and then shifty over there, because at least we've eaten something. Yeah. And then I didn't know how long the hot dogs would take, whether they'd be any good. So we went and did this thing. And it was really cool. It was, we got there, and it was like a bunch of people, and then they pretty much all left when we turned up. So it was just us two in this venue, like batting or attempting to hit these balls. Now, it's fair to say that I think I've done myself an injury trying to swing for these things, and
swinging gives you injuries.
It does, yeah. So it sort of like my abs hurt ever so slightly, but I think that's because we were trying to hit the baseballs like they were like orcs in Lord of the Rings. So we were properly leaning into it, properly swiping for them. And I think this was the reason I chose this is because Secret Vixen is quite competitive, and she's quite competitive with me in particular. So we got there, and there was a foosball table. We did a bit of that. She lost. She's going to hate me for saying that. And we had a drink, and then they chucked us in the cage, and we were literally like just batting and chucking balls everywhere. And it was because you have to put the balls back into the thing, so it goes back into the server and it spits it out and chucks it at you. So like we're both involved, and it was really fun. And at one point, she came out of the cage, and we shared a kiss. Oh yeah, I know. Look at your eyes go wide. No, so she came out of the cage, and we were just sort of chatting, and we just like magnetized towards each other, which was hot. And it was interesting because I don't know if the person that was running this thing, because he sat on a counter in the corner, whatever, or behind the bar.
Thought, wow, this place makes people sexy.
Yeah, or like who? Like, are they together or what's the deal? I don't know. But that was kind of fun, in that we had drinks being sort of brought to us every now and then. We did a few shots, which was cool. Mm-hmm. And we had a hot dog, which was nice. And it was just this fun little date. It was like the conversation was kind of quite competitive, quite jovial, quite sparky. And I mean, we'd had some sort of not serious, but sort of fairly good conversation at the restaurant. But by the time we got to the baseball place, it was all kind of bubbly and fun.
Ooh.
So we called a cab.
Okay.
Because much like your good selves, we recognised that time was finite. Mm-hmm. Although I think we'd been slightly more efficient.
Wow, not a contest.
It's not a contest. So we got a cab back to our house. And the first thing we did as soon as we got through the door was clean up a massive fucking dog wee. And
so
that was so sexy. And I did say, I didn't think you'd expect to see me on my hands and knees so rapidly. But apparently that was the thing. So we got in and had a drink. And one of the things that I really wanted to do, because I've had enough conversations with Secret Stag sort of about what he kind of likes in terms of pictures and the messages back. So in my head, I was like, right, I didn't get any pictures, so I'm going to ensure that I'm going to do at least some pictures.
Neither of you got any pictures, I want to point out.
Well, I know. Neither one of us got pictures.
No.
So I was going to take some moral high ground.
Yes.
But
Sound like you.
What I wanted to do was use the picture taking as a bit of a sort of fun thing that we could do.
Yeah.
That would make it a bit more spicy, a bit more naughty, and add to the experience. So what I said is, why don't we take some pictures? I've got an idea. Let's do that, and then we can chill out together.
Cool.
And she was really amenable to that. So I said, right, okay. So we get to our middle floor. So we're in a townhouse, 3 floors. Just background about our house now. The number to the house is, and the passcode and the keys. Yeah. So we get to the middle floor, and I said, right, okay. If you just take your top off and chuck it on the stairs, and then without even me repeating that her top was off and on the stairs, and then I took a picture of her sort of walking up the stairs with the top on the stairs. So, and then sent that through to you folks as a bit of a, let's tell a bit of a story. Mm-hmm. And then at the top of our stairs, we were like, okay, let's take your trousers off, or whatever, tights or whatever she was wearing, and let's take a picture of just like your sort of naked legs going into our bedroom. So I told that story, and then one of the things that you've been like berating us for was this story that I've written that you've been reading.
Corridor shenanigans.
Yes. So we thought it would be hilarious to take a picture of us two looking like we're having sex in the corridor of our house, and so we took a picture of that and then sent it to you, and also took a picture of from her perspective with her sort of legs on our bed, looking at me in our doorway holding like a bottle of champagne and some glasses.
Yes.
So I was like, okay, I think this feels like it's naughty, but it's fun. It's not doing too much that's like really spicy or anything. And then I think we took a picture in bed.
Possibly.
Us two together, I think.
Did you?
And then we basically started making out in the bed because she was already naked. Convenient, right?
And you were naked too.
I was naked too, pretty much at this point. And basically, we were just making out for a bit. And because we'd had some fun doing the photos, it was quite like we were giggling away to ourselves, and we're like, ha, we're so clever and naughty. Ha, 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 ha. Let's be really naughty now. And so I asked if I could go down on her, which I did. And
had a hell of a day, didn't she?
She's had a hell of a day. Yeah, she's barely had to sit up at all for anything. And she came.
Yeah.
And then she went down on me, and then we had sex. and she got on top of me, and that was really hot, really sexy. And then I came. Shocker. I was using a condom, I want to point out at this point.
Right, you were in a corridor.
I went in the corridor, and it wasn't a dark corridor, so that was fine. And that was really hot, actually, because we'd kind of had this whole sort of flirty, sort of touchy thing going on throughout the course of the evening. And it was really nice just to sort of, we're actually playing now, and we're in that space, and it's really fun. And as I said to you before, we don't really have any, I don't have any connection worries with her, and I don't think she does with me. It's kind of really simple for us to sort of work that out between us. And then we just sort of laid on the bed, and we were just sort of like chilling out and stroking. And then I started playing with her again and started stroking her. And I think she came again. And then we had some more sex. Okay. And then I was like, at this point I was starting to overheat a bit because I was really hot, and our bedroom was really hot. Well, that's what I should have done. And then we fooled around a bit more. I think you messaged us to sort of say at some point in between this, like, hey, can we come home now? We're bored. Like, but like equally, like you were talking about your allotted time and having your exact minute.
Actually, you know what? It wasn't me that asked that.
No, I know.
But yes.
So, but we were like, okay, we're in the middle of like fooling around and playing around still. So we're like, but maybe we're still doing some stuff.
Yeah.
But it was only like 40 minutes from when you were due to come home anyway. So we just carried on fooling around, and there were lots of like strokes and kisses and lots of plays. And then we sort of we had like a bit of sex and then chill out, and then we'd have another bit of sex and chill out. It was all very fluid, but not fluid in terms of the interactions. And then you folks came home. Mm-hmm. And what was it like when you were coming home? How did you feel throughout the course of this?
We were pretty tired.
Pretty tired. Well, I guess it had been a long day.
Yeah, it'd been a really long day. It was so peculiar because the first part of the evening was fine, absolutely fine. We were excited for you. We were all like geared up for you. We were like, yep.
Because you went for a bite to eat first, right?
Yeah, I went for something to eat. And then like 8:30, we went for some drinks. But the point at which we went for drinks was probably the longest point of the evening, and I don't think we'd factored in, Stag and I, just how tiring 4 hours could be. Oh God, yeah. I mean, we love each other dearly, we really do, and being in each other's company is wonderful. It truly is. However, it was we probably should have done something more active, I think.
An actual activity.
Like either an activity.
Like an hour's bowling or something.
Yeah, something. Because that's a long time to sit and just have a drink. Because neither of us really wanted to drink a lot.
Yeah.
Because it'd been a long day. And Stag and I had an experience to go to the next day anyway.
Yeah.
So we didn't want to be like super hungover. And we were like, okay, this is it's 4 hours. What do we do? So we played cards, we chatted. And yes, you sent your little narrative of picture telling over to us. Weirdly though, because I think by that point I was like, oh, this is a long night. I almost felt oddly, I kind of knew there was a picture coming because I could see the little message flash up, but I found it too compelling not to look, but at the same time I didn't want to look. I was like, oh.
Why didn't you want to look?
Because it would tell me that sex was still ongoing. And by this time I was like, oh, it's still ongoing, which means they're still, right, okay, cool. And I had no capacity at that point to feel sexy about any of that. For one, we were in a very public place and doing something very unsexy. And it just felt like almost like a minor irritant than a sexy thing. It's like,
I'm often described as a minor irritant, to be fair.
And I get what you were trying to do. And I think it would have been more exciting and more comfortable to receive that kind of stuff if we had been chilling out at home or somewhere comfortable.
Yeah.
And that was my big takeaway from that. I wish we were somewhere where we could just chill out. Yeah. I would have put my pajamas on or whatever. I would have sat on a comfy couch or something to bring me comfort.
Yeah.
And relax me. But as it was, I felt a little bit on edge because I was almost having to stay out of my own house. And I appreciate you did earlier as well. But in the daytime, it didn't feel maybe quite so difficult because there's lots of stuff to do. Lots of stuff is you had things planned.
Yeah.
And also it was really early on in the whole adventure anyway. So it was only, do you know what I mean? Whereas this was like hours later. And I was like, oh God, I am really weary now. So I think had we been in a more accommodating place to sit and chill and chat quietly, it would have been more well received when I did get the images and the little updates, because I was almost like didn't want to see them because I didn't really feel in a sexy place to look at that. And I was like, oh, okay, I get it. You're still doing that. And even he was the same. He was like, oh, he's very used to seeking solace for his kind of downloads of information and living that experience. And neither of us could do, I think, what would have felt better to do. So that's our learning.
So I think
it wasn't you that kind of created that dilemma for us. But in hindsight, I wish maybe we'd maybe had a hotel that you could have gone to, or we could have got something to give us more private space. Yeah,
I think, to be fair, I get what you're saying. I think it would have been useful for you to be at home while I was out. It wasn't so bad during the day, I think. Because I was able to occupy myself. But equally, if I was at home, if I had the house to myself, I probably would have gone out and done something and occupied myself anyway.
Yeah.
So, and I think you just being in a bar or whatever, I probably would have had to do an activity or something to take my mind away from at least part of it.
Yeah.
Or at least the weight of it. And I think that's where I was quite fortunate in that I was like, hey, Transformers. And then my mind could wander a bit, but I could also just distract myself if I wanted to. And then by the time you were due to be like going back to the house, I was in the car, and that, we were like singing along in the car or just chatting or whatever it might have been. And then we had the store to go around. So it was, there was always something going on. And whilst there were quiet moments, I was always doing something.
Yeah.
So I think my mind was a lot busier, but equally I'm conscious that I probably need a lot more distraction than you need. I think the trick was then actually you didn't have your creature comforts, and neither one of you was able to go away, and you couldn't just sort of sit there and like talk about it. Yeah. And I think
there was nowhere to enjoy it.
Yeah. You were in a bar and you were just in the space, and that's
it was very odd.
Yeah, that's what you had.
It felt odd.
And I think initially when we were going to do this sort of weekend of dates, we were talking about going to a hotel for the night while, you stayed home, or vice versa or whatever. Yeah. And I think that probably would have been a better, but albeit more expensive bed. But equally, we weren't to necessarily know that that's how we'd feel out the back of it. Not to take away at all from the date itself, because I had an absolutely
I'm sure you had an amazing time.
Great
I'm glad
time.
you did.
Yeah.
But it didn't land as well with me as I had hoped, I think, because I was not in a good space.
And I also I do get it.
I was all right. It wasn't that I was unhappy with what was happening. I just didn't feel like I was able to get anything from it either, in a way, because there was just nowhere for us to go. We even tried to see if there was an escape room open or something, but there was nothing. And then we thought, we might as well just tough it out now. And we had each other. I think it's just a shame that we kind of didn't take a lot from that latter part of the experience, because we just weren't in the right place.
Yeah, and the frustrating thing is I actually went to the effort of doing the pictures and stuff, and you weren't in the right space to receive them. I don't think, and we've sort of had a bit of this chat afterwards, that you're particularly interested in having the pictures generally. I'm not sure that appeals to you.
I don't think it necessarily... I don't think I need them in the way that the only need I have for them, I suppose, is more the reassurance that you're okay or that you are having a nice time. But I'm not sure I want to look at them and go, oh my God, that's so hot. I'm not sure that's what is going to happen.
No, and I don't think it is with you. I think I
think it's more cerebral.
It is. And I think you'd rather a text to say, oh, we're doing this now and this is where it's at.
That would be helpful. Or maybe even just hearing about it from you afterwards when you're, I don't know, but I'm not sure the pictures necessarily are something that I'm going to need.
But I don't think even the conversation.
We had to try, right?
Well, we did.
It's fine.
And we were sort of having this chat because obviously we've had a bit of time to sort of talk it through and decompress a bit. I don't think that you're that bothered even about hearing about the details so much. You're kind of like, did you have a nice time? Was it all right? You want to make sure that I didn't do anything untoward. And beyond that, I think your interest sort of rapidly drops off. That's certainly the impression that I've got from our conversations. It may be wrong, and it may be a different circumstance. You may be more interested in that information, but realistically, you're like, oh, that's nice. You had a nice time. That's good. What did you do? And it's not so much that you want me to tell you for it being a sexy story, because the way in which you ask and the time at which you ask isn't that. I think it's almost just going through a checklist of what's acceptable in your head and going, okay, that's cool. He hasn't done anything that I disagree with, so that's fine. It's okay. Now we move on. So it's a challenging one because, like, I certainly feel like going on a date with someone whose partner is really into that stuff. I feel like I could certainly play up to that, and
I think you could.
Yeah, and that feels like it could be something that I could do quite well. But at the same point, I don't think I would share that stuff with you. I'd give you the offer to see it, but you probably, I don't think you want to, and I think seeing it probably isn't going to help you. Assuming that is if we do another single date, and I'm not sure that it's. I don't know where we are with it because I think we both enjoyed it having our own separate piece.
We both genuinely enjoyed our experiences, our separate experiences. I really, really enjoyed reconnecting with you the next day.
Yeah, that was really nice, and I loved that part.
Really, really did.
That was great, but I don't think you get anything from me going out and doing something. And
I'm not sure you.
Well, I feel like I don't know because I feel like nothing pushed that button at all. And even the telling of it again wasn't like when we were being sexy. It was just like you going, well, this is what we did. And it was like a bullet point list of this, and this, and away we go. And when you did that, I really got the impression that you didn't want me to be like, oh yeah. And then I went down on her, and then she was pushing my head into her and pulling me closer, and I couldn't get close enough, and that I had the taste of her all over my mouth, and all this kind of stuff.
These are like things that I hadn't thought of saying.
Yeah, but you don't want that.
My mind doesn't work like that.
But what I'm saying is that, like, I have the capacity to do that for you, but you're like, why are you doing that for? What's the point of that?
But do you like doing that, like saying those things?
I think there is something sexy about recounting it in that way of the moment and the passion. But I think you're more likely to get upset over the fact that it is being recounted in that way. So and this is the thing, and this is my sort of like thought process out the back of it in all these conversations. I think we both enjoyed our own separate dates. That was fun. That was nice. But then we always knew that we would do, I think. I think it's like being inherently selfish together. It's like we like an experience ourselves. For the person that's sat at home, you don't have a drive for me to go out and do things. And I don't have a particular desire to see you do that stuff.
Right.
You've not really made it sexy for me, whereas I know that you don't want me to make it sexy for you. So there is a bit of that, like, so it feels a bit.
The only reason we're really probably doing it then is for our own needs.
It's like for our own experience.
We're giving each other permission to go and enjoy ourselves separately on occasion and enjoy the reconnection afterwards. But not necessarily.
But we're not necessarily saying that. But that's the thing. No, I'm not entirely sure that this is worth pursuing.
Oh.
I think that it feels like that there is a risk behind this the singular pursuit, I think. And I think that it feels very much in just the favour of the person going.
Right.
And I think at one point that could be really triggering for the person sat at home. I'm not saying that we put an absolute stop to it, but I'm very, very conscious that because there is no driving factor for the person sat at home, and because it's not made into a fun thing for the person sat at home, or the person sat at home doesn't want it to be made into a fun thing, then actually the risk of it going wrong from that person's perspective is a lot higher. So that's just something that we probably need to watch out for and be mindful of.
I agree.
I think the the actual going out and having a date with somebody we both really love, because it's like, yay, it's like we get all the attention, we get all the space, we get to do what we like, we get to control it in our own way, we get to like have these wonderful adventures, which is great. But there is still someone sat at home that's like, I'm just occupying myself until they come back.
Yeah, no, I get that.
And I think that's the challenge of it, I think. And I think when you wanted to reconnect, I think it felt a lot more that you were more keen to reconnect after your experience in the afternoon than necessarily the whole experience. But maybe that's just because timing, and it was late by the time you got back and all this sort of stuff.
Yes. I'm trying to work out what you said.
Well, so when we came home, when Secret Stag and I came home, you were very keen to sort of like reconnect and very fired up, and it was like, this is great. When you came back,
I was so late and tired. Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't that. It was like 12. So I mean, in the grand scheme of things, not that late.
Super knackered then.
But your enthusiasm just wasn't that. Next day, a little bit more enthusiasm, granted, but it did feel as though you weren't that fussed about the fact that I'd done this stuff, and you were like, you were just more interested in going to sleep.
I got you. But I think that was coming off the back of the 5-hour, knowing we'd made a little bit of an error of judgment of not being in the best place to receive the story.
Yeah, no, maybe.
I wonder if I might have felt a bit differently had we been in a different environment. Well, possibly. Because I know the first time that you did this, I did feel a bit different.
Yeah.
Now, I think partly because I was on my own and comfortable. So I actually did lean into it a little bit more. I think those circumstances were a little more helpful in allowing myself to receive a sexual narrative, as opposed to this, which was, I had to deal with the circumstances I was in, as opposed to being able to control the environment I was observing all this.
Yeah.
So I do think that had something to do with it.
Okay.
So I'm open to exploring whether that is actually the case, and if it was purely down to more circumstance of just not being in the right place at the right time to feel anything other than frustration and fatigue. Maybe.
Yes, I mean, it's an interesting one, because like from my mind, I was still quite as ever. I was like, yay, I'm still awake. I'm like, I've been a bit hot, a bit knackered, but I'm also like, yeah, let's all catch up and chat. But and
we did chat
a bit, yeah.
I think 4 of us did chat.
We did a chat a bit. I think
there was some tiredness.
Yeah,
on all
most
parties
definitely,
apart from you.
So, anything else that you chuck in?
Oh, so okay. I mean, I love that we did it, and we haven't died or broken as a result. That's all good. We've had some conversations, and I did enjoy the next day with you, because I got to go back to bed with you. That was really hot. I really, really enjoyed being back with you, kind of in a sexy way. And it wasn't because I was reliving the previous night particularly. It was just that we were together again.
Yeah.
And it was lovely. And I stand by that.
The property of Mrs. H stamps that you put all over me did speak volumes, frankly.
I need to patent those. No, and that was tremendous. You know, I really, really valued having the opportunity to reconnect with you. I do think, yeah, I'm keen to understand if the first time you did it to the second time you did it was that whole circumstantial piece that I've just talked about. I think it was probably more likely to be that. However, I'm super grateful that you gave me the opportunity to experience a solo date with a woman.
Where's this going? You're like, now I want to have a solo date with 8 women.
No, of course not. No, I'm really, really, really grateful that we both gave each other the space and time to do something a little bit different. And I think that's also a valuable little adventure.
I think so. I mean, there's much to like, and I don't mean to be down on it. I think, I had a really fun time. I had a really sexy date. I had an amazing time also just hanging around with Secret Stag. And I want to say thank you to both of them for being awesome friends and for helping us in this experience. Hopefully they got something out of it too. But I think, I think it's easy to get carried away with the over-analysing it. I think, I had a really hot time. And you certainly seem to, and sort of coming back home, you looked like you were absolutely like cat that got the cream. You really did, and that was really nice to see. It's just it's hard to separate the kind of like, oh, it would have been nice if we could have. It would have been nice to, if we did this, and I think we could endlessly go on that. But I think as an overall, you know, given the circumstances, given what we had to work with, given the timings that we had, you know, did it work out? I'd say yes.
Yeah, I would say it did. But maybe there's stuff to think about. Should we decide to do this again?
Yeah,
we might need to refine some things or do some things a little bit.
Turn it into like the Big Brother house, so I can just film whatever, wherever. That's fine. That'll help. And I think, you know, that part of it for me is that, like, I want this to be a sexy adventure. I really do. Because I don't get anything like, I don't get excited about you going, just like you don't with me, really. Not realistically, you don't. We kind of need to figure out what we do. What is the point of us doing this? Are we just doing this to satisfy ourselves? Or are we doing it because it's pushing our boundaries? Or are we doing it because we want to turn our partners on? And I think we kind of need to kind of work through that a bit and work through what we want out of it. Yeah. And that should drive some of the decisions we make about whatever we do moving forwards. Probably. I don't know. We'll see. Anything else?
I don't think so. Like you say, we could endlessly debate.
Mass debate.
Yeah.
We can mass debate it.
We could endlessly debate all the bits and bobs that keep cropping up as, was this okay? And how do I feel about this now? But yeah, I think we've probably got enough for now to go away and reflect.
Yeah, sure. Well, we'd love to hear what you think, gentle listeners. Have we debated it to the death? Have we done this? Have we over-egged it as per normal? Have we overthought it? Did you enjoy this?
Very
Is this something you do? What will be your top tips for us? And any single ladies want to go on a date with me? That would be wonderful. Thank you very much. Don't send any Mrs. H's way, for she's got 482 people lined up now. Thank you very much.
How many? I won't see any of them.
Exactly. Mrs. H, do your thing.
Well, thank you for hopping into our bed.
So, as I mentioned before, I have sent you the story. I have sent you the story. It's like, you know, it's not a short story by any stretch of the imagination.
It's not.
I tried to write as many naughty words in there, and I thought you might like to read it for our gentle listeners. That's what she said.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to read this. I apparently couldn't make my date sound sexy to you, but let's see if I can turn your words into something sexual. Are you ready? Are you listening?
Born ready.
Right. Light in the darkness. Grinding against him, she leaned back, throwing her hands behind and to the floor. The angle of his cock inside her, in combination with the pressure of riding him, was sending waves of pleasure throughout her naked body. He pulled her towards him, hands firmly squeezing her ear. The additional pressure and friction caused her to let out a soft moan. They could not be any closer, any more intimate, and yet they craved to be closer still. She could not contain herself. She leaned forward to kiss him, passion taking over any rhythm. Control had gone and they pulled at each other, exploring every inch, fucking whilst they kissed, grasped, held and gave in to every desire. His hands tight in her hair, her lips firmly against his. Faster and faster, breathing heavily. She fucked him harder now, raising herself from the floor and then taking his length with every stroke. She braced her hands against his chest, using the moment to show that she was in charge, and she was taking what she wanted. With every raise, he found himself thrusting harder and deeper inside of her. He found his hands exploring her breasts, firmly grasping them as they continued to fuck on the floor. In their passion, they rolled around, leaving him on top of her. Now she submitted to his actions, her eyes staring back at his in the night. He grabbed her hands and raised them above her head, and he began to take her in this new position. They kissed. He pushed hard inside her, using his weight to ensure that her clit felt every motion. As he started to slowly rock backwards and forwards, he could feel the sensation grow around his cock. Her hands tightly squeezed his, encouraging his actions. He paused for a moment so that she could catch her breath and concentrate on every movement, every pulse, and every ripple across her body. She whispered in his ear, like that. Slow. He continued the gentle movement, rocking backwards and forwards, holding her hands and staring into her eyes. Her breath became faster. He wasn't sure, but in the darkness he swore he could see her cheeks redden. She bit her lip and let out a soft moan. Her eyes widened, and she whispered again, "I'm going to come." Her hands squeezed tighter still. He felt the pressure around his cock increase. She held her breath for a moment and then release. Her entire body shook with pleasure. Her eyes closed as she gave in to the sensation, her body tingling, sated. As her breathing slowed, she leaned forward and kissed his neck. "I want to do something for you. I need you to stand." His curiosity aroused, he returned the kiss and stood before her. She pulled herself to her knees. She reached out her hand and cupped his hard cock. Her fingers and thumb traced their way down his shaft, nails lightly on the skin. Her hand slid further still, gently holding his balls. A soft squeeze. He closed his eyes as he leaned into the sensation. And then warmth. His eyes opened. She'd taken his cock in her mouth, her eyes fully focused on his in the darkness. The corner of her mouth hid a delicious smile. She wanted the taste of him since earlier that night, but she was not disappointed. But this illicit activity was only enhanced with the taste of her own sex on his cock. Her tongue flicked over the head, sending incredible sensations across his body. He stifled a moan, trying to keep their encounter in the darkness private. She trailed her tongue up and down his shaft, continuing to hold and fondle his balls. She moved her mouth to the tip of his penis, smiled, and then he watched as his cock disappeared. She took his entire length, pausing as she reached the base of his shaft. She began to repeat the process faster and faster. He found himself grasping her head, her hair, and pulling her closer still, each stroke bringing him closer and closer. She could feel his muscles tightening, the twitching of his cock, and the breaths becoming shorter and shorter. Barely whispering, he said, "I'm going to..." Still on her knees, she withdrew his cock from her mouth. She shifted her grip, holding his cock tightly in her hands. He could see her eyes looking up at him in the night, a sly smile spreading across her face. She began to stroke him, and each stroke faster than the next. Finally, he could take it no longer. He came. As she continued to stroke him, she could feel the hot liquid splash across her lips and right cheek. As she felt his body tremble in satisfaction, she found her tongue trace a line across her lip. Watching her taste him, he let slip a small moan. He offered her his hand and pulled her to her feet. For a moment, they stared at each other in the darkness, their desire sated. She leaned forwards and whispered, "I'm glad you are still awake." He pulled her close and kissed her gently on the neck. "Good night." She embraced him tightly, and slowly letting him go, she turned and walked towards the door to her room. He watched her silently disappear into the darkness and close the door. As she stepped into her room, her partner was sat waiting on the bed. He strode across the room and pulled her close. He whispered in her ear, "That was the hottest thing I've ever seen. I've never wanted you more." She felt her hands pulling his face closer still, his breath warm near her lips. She closed her eyes and kissed him.
Did you enjoy that?
Absolutely.
Did you enjoy that though?
Filth.
What was wrong with that?
Filth.
I liked it.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I thought it was good. I wrote it well. Did you like it?
Very good. Very good.
We hope you liked it, dental listeners. That concludes this story for now.
Bareback corridor shenanigans.
That's not what it's called.